write Game Changers,
Hmm.
you were gathering distinct profiles and stories across very different fields. What point during this process did these individual stories stop feeling like separate entries and they began revealing themselves as a single larger blueprint to life?
Right. See, if you look at the book, normally people think that it's a collection of stories, right? But here in Game Changers, there is much more to just a collection of stories, because fortunately, I am also a trainer, a soft skills trainer, and I'm an engineer by profession. But now let's talk about the soft skills part or the life skills part. And if you look at each of the chapters, there is some skill that has been utilized by the individual who succeeded with his or her mission. So, in a way, what I'm trying to do in this book is that to bring out that, the quality that is inherent in these people, right? And in every chapter, there is always a takeaway. So this is just not a collection of stories, but also the qualifications of that those individuals, the kind of skills that perhaps they were not born with, but because of the circumstances and the challenges, they discovered the inherent skills within them. So on that count, in addition to the story, this book is about people who have skills, who had skills, and who are still using these skills. And they got in touch with their skills to solve the problem and take the mission ahead. And second thing I tell you is that the one quality which I found very common throughout the 20 chapters and at a very subterranean level is that these people had service as their motto. They did not expect anything from what they did. Like, this the business jargon, 4x, 5x, how much will I get it? I'm going to invest, 100K. So I want 6x. None of this in this. These are really simple, plain people who always wanted to help society, help the village in which they were staying, and they did not expect anything in return, rewards or recognitions. So you can see the altruistic nature of all these people, almost saintly and stoic, I must say, right? So this really, I think, sets apart Game Changers from just a collection of stories.
So that's wonderful. We live in a culture that measures achievement through metrics. So whether it's, like you said, revenue, public acclaim, uh, has spending time immersed in these lives altered your personal definition of what a successful life looks like?
See, success, as I told you, success has so many definitions, not one. It's very difficult to say that this is the definition for success. Now, if you look at maybe about, 30 or 40 years ago, right, success meant something different. You remember, our parents used to tell us, look here, you have to complete your graduation or engineering, get very good marks, and then you should get a job, a good job. Okay. And that was the pinnacle of success in those times. And they were right also. They were very right. But here, if you see, success has a different connotation, a different definition from the ambit of Game Changers. Success for these people, right, was that their passion was bigger than the circumstances. Definition one about success. Success, definition two, they wanted to bring about a change as far as the members of their community was concerned. Success definition three, they wanted to bring a smile on their faces and improve the quality of life of these people. So you see how the different connotations are coming up as far as success is concerned. But I think, according to me, the success here, I mean, talking maybe in managerial terms, even to this day, is that their passion was much, much greater than the circumstances, the obstacles, and they did not complain about anything. They went ahead and were very, very successful.
Another term which is often used is of resilience. So
Correct.
has that become just a buzzword? And
Hmm.
how through these stories does one understand what resilience towards adversities in life actually means?
Right. So now let's first, I think, begin with the dictionary definition, credit to the Oxfords and the Websters. Resilience basically is the ability of a man to bounce back from seemingly hopeless situations. I'll give you a very nice example, and I'm sure you'll love it. I'm sure you're interested in sports, right? Yeah. Now, if you a few years ago, if you were watching the Wimbledon finals, Roger Federer, right, one of the top, the legends of tennis, he was two sets down, and the opponent was serving for a match point in the third set, and this man would somehow salvage the whole thing, win the third set, and the last two sets, the game and match. This is what resilience is all about. Now, let me, I think, give an example of resilience from the book itself, rather than define what resilience is, because all of us know the dictionary meaning. See, I would particularly like to take you to the story of Bola Shrikant, the man who was visually challenged. His story, is a true representation of resilience. A, the young man was visually handicapped, right? Two, thanks to some outdated and archaic laws, he did not get the kind of reception that he expected because of his handicap. If you go through the story, he had a problem, especially at school, where they were not admitting visually handicapped people. And then he wanted to get into the IITs, one of the premier technology institutes in the country. But strangely, the IITs told him that no, we will not entertain people with handicaps. But then he, though he was disappointed, he did not wave the white flag. Okay, he said, "Look, doesn't matter if IIT, is not going to admit. I'm going to try somewhere in America." And he applied to 5 American universities, and he got into Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Right, his entire saga showcases what resilience is, rather than me telling you the meaning of resilience. Similarly, the story of Dashrath Manchi, right? What resilience that diminutive man had from Bihar, and when his wife Phalguni, slipped from the mountain and passed away. He said that I'm going to carve a path through the mountain to get to the other side where medical facilities existed. And for 22 long years, just armed with a chisel and another implement, a hammer, he started working on his mission, and finally he cut through the other side. As a result, the distance between Gahlor and Wazirganj was reduced from 70 kilometers to 6 kilometers. If his story is not resilience, then what else is? Okay, so that is what it is, and every single chapter, somewhere, people had this resilience. Otherwise, I think they wouldn't have been successful. or they wouldn't have figured in my book the game changes.
So, a big part of their trajectory also feels, about individual agency. And how do you feel about this? That the sheer ability to endure friction until things happen for them. So, do you think that's also a message through these stories that one can learn from?
Yeah, see, one thing is individual agencies. If you're talking about, are you talking about the set of rules of the government? Especially in the case of Bola Shrikant, where each institution had its own rules. Right now, what in this story, right? What they did was, as I told you, they always explored options. Okay. Now, agency, or you can call it systemic barriers also, and that's the term that you have used. So now let's go to Pulwama in Kashmir, right? We'll pick up the story of Nazim Nazir, who started with 2 boxes of bees, right? Yeah, and then slowly he graduated, and today I think he's at some 5,000 to 7,000 kgs per year. His company, Al Nahal Producer Company, produces honey. Do you know what this young man did? He at I think after passing out from class 10th, he gave up. He gave up education, and he said, "No, no, that's enough for me. I know what to do." And he opened up his internet. Right, there was a phase of self education, because that was the only way to circumvent or to surmount some of these laws, as I said. And this man, to his credit, he found out all those schemes and programs that were available to him from the government of India. For example, the government of India had set up a beekeeping corporation, a bee corporation. I don't remember the name properly, but the mandate of that corporation was to help people who would rear bees and get into honey production. So he went there, and then he also went to the uh, Kashmir Small Scale Industries Corporation. Then there's some corporation. I'm not getting the name. He went there, and then he asked them, "What are the schemes for a person like me who is a starter?" So he somehow gathered a lot of information, right, which helped him to overcome all these systemic barriers or obstacles. And then after that, there was no looking back. And as you know, Nazim Nazir spoke to the prime minister and had a selfie with him. Right. So finally, coming to a one line answer, you have to find your way through these systemic barriers. Some of them, not palatable really, like in the case of Bola Shrikant, where they said that a visually handicapped man cannot be admitted. What is the logic? You're a lawyer. You're a lawyer, right? What is the logic? Right? I mean, on the contrary, you have to come to his rescue, and you have to help him. And I mean, a point I wanted to make about the visually handicapped. See, I too, if you had read that story, I too went through a phase where I had to struggle with my eyesight, because for 37 years of my life, I went through partial blindness. And in those days, I had a condition called congenital cataract, which today, if you look at the technology that's available, it's an OPD procedure. That's all, right? You walk in at about 10 o'clock, and then the implant is over. By 11 o'clock, he says, I mean, the doctor says, you wear a bandage. That's all. I mean, for 1 or 2 days, you wear a bandage, and then you put these drops into your eyes. Close, period. That's all, right? But those days, technology was not advanced, and you will not believe it. I could not see the board properly in spite of sitting in the front bench. And And no drops or no medication would ever solve the problem, right? But then, like the characters in the Game Changers, I told myself, look, I will do whatever I can do with the faculties that I have, and I'm not going to crib about it, right? So that is what it is. A person who has actually gone through this, I can resonate with what has happened with Bola Shrikant.
There's always a temptation to structure human narratives into these neat arcs. So the problem they faced, the struggle,
Hmm.
and then the neat victory. How did you approach telling these stories without reducing this to something, which we even see in cinema, that's how a plot is carved out. So how is that something you
E-
navigate?
Right. See, I'll tell you, as far as the characters are concerned, and besides the characters, some of the organizations that were involved, mm, I always believed and believe in calling a spade, right? I, while praising and appreciating the efforts of all these heroes and heroines, right, of my story, I did not, spare the agencies who turned a blind eye. Okay, so to give you an example, let's take the story of Dashrath Manchi. Right now, just imagine the man for 22 years he was carving a path through the mountain, and you can sense the governmental apathy. Right, they didn't take 4 steps to help this man. Right, absolute indifference. And I have really pointed out that thing. It is written in that chapter that this certainly is not the way the dispensation functions, especially when somebody from your state, right, has spent 22 years, and had it been some other country, they would have made a hero out of him, and the place would have been transformed into a tourist attraction. But none of it was there. The typical, I mean, you can imagine 1960s and 1980s bureaucracy, that too in Bihar, it was at its worst. So these are some of the things that I have come down heavily on agencies who did not support individuals. They should have done. So in this case, coming back to your question, I have given their fair share of due wherever I thought that it was pertinent, and I have criticized also the agencies and the government where they were found lacking.
You spoke about relating to one story because that's something you have also gone through in your own life.
Hmm.
What about the fact that while writing these stories, there are certain ethical dilemmas that one faces? It's about the vulnerabilities of these stories itself, and a writer's dilemma, whether I write about this or I don't. So did you at any point face those dilemmas while writing any of these stories?
See, first of all, I must tell you that before writing these stories, I spoke to quite a few of my subjects. Of course, it's impossible to speak to all 20 because they are, spread all across India. So I had video calls and then phone calls, and I did my fair share of research as far as these people are concerned. Now, coming to the point, I tried to be very meticulous and honest when it came to reporting about them. See, because they are individual personalities, right? And you cannot write something which they might not like. So it was a mirror representation of their lives, actually. However, now comes the interesting masala, right? Like they say in kheer, if you add kesar and badam, it looks it's tastier than what it was. So, because as an author, I'm not here to write, their biodata or their CV. So, while describing them, I also tried to bring to the fore their qualities. Right. Now, let me again take an example from the book itself, because this way
Sure.
we'll be covering all stories.
Yes.
Uh, Somewhere around 1996, Surat was, devastated because it was affected by plague. Then uh, it was so bad that no officer wanted to come to take care of Surat. And then this gentleman, Mr. S.R. Rao, was deputed by the center to take care of this Surat, right? Because it was ravaged by that pandemic, uh, the plague. And this man, right, you know, he brought in his skills. He was daring. He received a lot of threats, but he said nothing doing, right? And he started moving the entire apparatus, the municipal corporation apparatus, and told these people, look here, now you have to be on the field by 7 a.m. Okay. And then all those rich and well connected people who had practically encroached on government land, what he did was he gave them a notice, and they thought that, oh, nothing, we'll pull some contacts and this man can't do anything. But they were surprised that in a few days a bulldozer had practically leveled everything that they had. So what I'm saying is that the story here, right, brings out the qualities, the strength of this gentleman who in fact changed the very face of Surat within. What he did was, see, he changed the entire scenario. He cleaned up the whole town, and he involved people. Now, you remember I was talking about the some of these innate qualities or the management qualities. He involved people being from the IS cadre. He saw that collaboration is a tool here, right? And he used it. So this way, I have tried to focus on the individual and their work rather than their personal side. Right? Because that's what the readers want, isn't it?
No, absolutely. And how about the fact that once, after penning down these stories and finalizing on your book, and till about now, are there any stories which have stayed on with you or which you find yourself, thinking about?
All right. I'll tell you. See, it took me 18 months to write this story. And what somehow the turning point came when I saw that the media always covered sportsmen, actors, businessmen, and you could always see that hype and hoopla around these, celebrities. Now, what irritated me, to tell you the truth, is that there are people who are silently working in the villages of India, elsewhere, without the cameras. And why don't you cover them? Why are they not given their due share? And then, after putting the question to myself, I said, if they are not willing to do it, I will do it. Right? I will bring them uh, under the spotlight. These unseen heroes, unheard heroines, right? And I'll take up that responsibility. And that is why, thanks to my publishers, Jaico Publishing House, they accepted this book because they saw somebody who is trying to further the cause of unknown people. Absolutely unknown. Nobody knew about them. Okay, so that is what it is, and the sentence, or maybe the thought that still stays with me, right? And I'm talking right from my heart today, is that this is my greatest gift to my country. This book, right?
Wonderful.
Because
Such an
yeah,
honor.
Yeah, this is my greatest gift because I wanted to showcase these people who were responsible for genuine progress from wherever they are. They did not have any kind of powerful connections. Uh, they didn't have the financial muscle. All that they had was passion, a missionary zeal to serve people and serve their country. So, to conclude, I can tell you that if I get a chance, I will write a sequel to Game Changers 2.0 so that I can bring some more people, their stories in the spotlight, and gradually cover the whole country. Of course, it's a pipe dream, all right, but I'll try.
No, I mean, we hope and we wish that you do come up with another book. A parting thought, if I may ask you, what is one perspective you hope that readers take after reading your book?
Right. Let's look at Gen Z. Okay. I mean, of course, the book is across ages and then functions, and even right from a college student up to a corporate executive, or people right from 20s to 60s, 70s, and 80s can read the book and take their inspiration. Right. Uh, However, what I thought was that, especially as far as Gen Z is concerned, okay, the message to them that I would like to convey is that look here, these people, right, maybe about 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years ago, they could achieve this without anything. And you are blessed. You have everything, the Gen Z. And your financial condition is much, much better than what they had. So you are in such a good position to carry the torch forward, and you cannot get a better beacon, right? Or maybe inspiring personalities other than the 20 people I have mentioned.